Good morning, good morning, good morning. Give us a second. It looks like Rumble's still under attack. It's having an issue. Let me try and reconnect to it, but Rumble's website itself is not working and our connection to it is not working. So we're going to try it again. Obviously, you won't hear me if you're on Rumble, but we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on X, we're on Getter, and we're also on Randy's Facebook and YouTube. So we definitely have a whole bunch of places to be. But looks like maybe we might be able to get Rumble up now. Maybe might be able to get Rumble up now. I see the page. But my gosh, they're having some trouble. So folks, just give me 1 second. I got to click another button here. This is live broadcast for you. And Rumble's having issues. Let's hope that works. Let's hope that works, folks. Yeah, it's having trouble. So obviously you're not seeing me on Rumble. So hopefully that audience has moved to Facebook, my website, YouTube, or even Randy's Facebook and YouTube. But we'll keep an eye on that. So Padge, if you can keep me posted in the chat there. If Rumble comes back up, I'll hit the button and reconnect it again. But apologies, because that's a really large audience for us. Let me double check something. Yeah, they're under attack. All right, folks. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hello to Wednesday. We have a great show for you today. First notice is Donald Best isn't available today. He was up really late working hard on an article, so he'll have to get back to us. And if Rumble is not up, don't worry. I'll rebroadcast it to Rumble. So this show will get out to Rumble's audience eventually. So on that note, we'll get there. But yeah, Donald is worked really late last night, so he's not here. However, I did bring Amanda, also previously known as Miss Cannabis Court or Miss CC. She's been working with Randy. She's reporting on the court matter, and she will be joining us for the second half. The first half is going to be with Randy and I. We're going to go over a letter that he's going to release to you publicly for the first time and let you guys know what's going on with his matter. And we're going to go through that. A little bit of house cleaning. Coots, we got some more information on what's going on with Tony Rollison. Okay, so a lot of people were upset with me on Sunday when I posted that Tony quit. No, I posted that she was fired because that's the information I got. Now I'm going to reveal my sources for that. My sources are the lawyers. So I certainly get information directly from the lawyers. I think that's the best place to get a lot of this information. So I got it directly from the lawyers. The lawyers said fired. Okay, she said fired. They said fired. So I posted that she was fired. It was huge news because the lawyers were taken aback. This was hours, like 48 hours before the next matter to be in court. And they're learning that she was fired. That was the term that was used. So I posted that. Unfortunately, Tessie was in the hospital and Nikki couldn't get back to me or didn't get back to me. So I went ahead with fired. Tessie came out of the hospital. It upset her to hear the I posted fired. She reached out. She said she quit, that Tony Rollison quit. She didn't fire. It upset Tessie, so I went ahead and quickly corrected that as soon as I heard that information from Tessie. And then we went on with the day. And then on Monday, we heard Tony Rollison was at the court via video, and she resigned. All right, so the technical term is resigned, but it is quit. She did quit. She wasn't fired. So the misunderstanding, as we learned yesterday from Chris Carbert, because he posted this publicly. This is why I'm letting you know who the sources are, because Chris Carver posted that publicly. The lawyers were told by Tony Rollison that she was fired. That information got to me. It got to you. Then it got to Tess. I corrected it. You guys now know the truth. I didn't lie, so I just want to highlight that. My sources are the lawyers. So like this is supposed to be good sources, and the lawyers didn't lie. The information they received was not fully the truth, it appears. Now, whether they figured she was fired because maybe some of the words she was using maybe made them believe she was fired, but that's how I got that information. So my sources are the lawyers, of course. They're usually a really good source. All right, so before I pull Randy on, let me check Rumble one more time to see if maybe we can get this thing up. It's not looking good, though, folks. Rumble's not looking good. So, Padge, if you can put a chat in the Rumble, because it is really slow, tell people to go to Facebook, YouTube, and other, and let them know I'll rebroadcast on Rumble a little bit later today when it's up. Okay? Make sure you let them know that Rumble will get the broadcast. All right, folks. There you go. There's your start. And I really want to get to Randy, because Randy is kicking some butt. If you don't know who Randy Hillier is, he's an MP. He was an MPP, a Conservative MPP from Ontario. They eventually kicked him out because he stood up. we'll get into quickly because we want to get to the letter of why he got kicked out, became an independent MPP, and then finished his term that way. He found himself in some trouble trying to do his work, going to work. He found himself in some trouble, and he's been charged, and we're going to go over some of that today. So without further ado, hello, Mr. Randy Hillier. How are you today?
Good morning, Jason, and everyone watching and tuning in wherever you may be.
I love
your
you.
introduction. Yeah, I would have paraphrased your introduction with saying it like this: "Never trust a lawyer." Is what we would have said. Languages and facts are not always the same in the legal world as they are in the real world. So, we've all learned that. So,
well, Randy, here's the problem. Like, we learned this yesterday because Chris Carpenter posted it on Facebook. She's received $550,000 in fees. So she's been paid just over $500,000. And according to Chris Carpenter, I haven't verified this. He's the only source for this information. Tony Olenek, the man in remand, asked for the statement of accounts, a breakdown of the $550,000. That caused a problem. She quit.
Yeah.
So that's all I have right now. Like, to me, that's not a legitimate reason for the lawyer to quit, and I can't believe the court would accept that as a resignation. So there might be more to it than that, but that's where we're at right now. It looks like he was looking into the accounting, and then she quit. I really want to validate that because that sounds peculiar to me.
Well, okay.
Back to you, though. Back to you, Randy. So thank you for joining us from Scuttlebutt Lodge. I recognize that place. I've been there.
It was a beautiful morning. Got out nice and early. Took a walk around the camp and let the chickens out. And it's a beautiful morning. So, but now I guess we'll get into the meat of the matter. And
yes, sir.
Just how ugly and monstrous this legal machine has become, and the evidence that we can say that. I guess for some people, I'll just say, I was and am, as far as I know, the only elected member of any provincial legislature or parliament in Canada to be criminally charged for advocating for freedom.
Wow.
And that happened on March 28th, 2022. I was a sitting member of the Ontario legislature representing Lanark, Frontenac, and Kingston. I had been a member at that time for 15 years. And shortly after I announced I was not going to seek re-election, the Ottawa Police Service began an investigation into my actions in Ottawa in January and February of 2022. And we all know what happened in Ottawa at that period of time. I am prohibited from speaking or using terminology, but I would like to, but I might.
Yes, let's not. And we don't need to complicate your life any further. So there was an event in Ottawa that you went to, and you got yourself a couple tickets out of it.
I've got 9 criminal charges, and the Crown is seeking 3.5 years of incarceration for me for charges of mischief and trumped up BS charges of assault and obstruction. And I think a lot of people may have watched that video of me on Parliament Hill moving a barricade, a temporary steel portable barricade. I moved it away from the crowd and from the peace officers. The Crown, at my bail condition, characterized and misled the judge and said that I threw this steel barricade at the police. A total fabrication. Anyway,
sure, it looked like you just moved it. There's no throwing and nothing like that.
So, and I had been kicked out of the Conservative caucus previous because I had been exposing the political corruption from the parties and the influence peddling and the money and the bribery that's going on with the lobbyists in the Ontario legislature. So Doug Ford didn't like me doing that. His key advisors and influential people didn't like me exposing that, selling legislation for money. So I got kicked out of the caucus and sat as an independent. So that takes us up to today. On November 17th, after spending tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars on a lawyer, I fired.
Parted ways.
My lawyer and I parted ways. Let's put it that way. We parted ways, and I chose to self-represent. And it's, and I'll maybe just say this, Jason. It was obvious to me that giving money to lawyers is indirectly just growing this legal monster in this legal machine. This monster that is attacking freedom-loving Canadians, law-abiding, freedom-loving Canadians. Every time these lawyers are sucking up all kinds of money defending people like myself, and is actually growing the machine that is attacking us. And I said, I'm not going to feed this machine any longer. I'm not going to feed this monster. And I don't have to play by the rules of other lawyers. I'm not an officer of the court, so I have no obligation beyond my charter-protected rights and freedoms. So that's what I've decided to do. And lo and behold, I've had 3 appearances now in court representing myself. The Crown, the deviousness, the skullduggery of these buggers, right, is they are trying to deflect their own politically charged and motivated actions and characterize it as I am being obstructionist. So this week,
That's bold, by the way, for him to say that.
Say that again?
That's bold of him to say that, but please continue.
Yeah. Well, so this week, I sent a letter to the regional senior judge, Callum McLeod.
I'll pull it up.
Yeah, pull it up. It'll be published on my websites later today. And in that letter, I dispel the falsehoods and the mischaracterization of the Crown in regards to this case, and point out a number of very glaring and obvious mistakes by the Crown. And maybe I'll just go over a couple little items as a recap. The Crown and the judge have not scheduled adequate time for the defense in trial. Both the Crown and the defense identified 29 days of trial. The judge only scheduled 20 days,
right,
over my objections, because obviously, if that happens, my defense will be interrupted, but the Crown will have an uninterrupted attack on me.
Correct.
So, and I also point this out, that the schedule that they have, which is now in February of 2025, exceeds and goes well beyond the time frame identified in Jordan that for a speedy access to justice. But here's a couple of other things you'll see in the paragraph above. There's some language that most people won't realize, but it's the appointment of an amicus and counsel. And right at the moment, I'm fighting 2 Crown attorneys, and the judge is a former Crown attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And the Crown now wants to have 2 more lawyers appointed as amicus and as what's called a 486 lawyer. And they want to do this without my input, without my influence, and without my concurrence. And, we very well could have 2 more crowns. If 3 wasn't bad enough, they want to stack the deck even more. So I've indicated to the senior judge that any additional judges appointed, any additional lawyers appointed must come from a defense background. And just to clear this up, just for a 486 lawyer, is the Crown is suggesting that these 2 young, burly parliamentary precinct police officers might be intimidated if I cross-examine them.
Right.
Trial, and they might suffer some trauma if this senior citizen named Randy Hillier cross-examines them in trial. So they want to take away my ability to cross-examine my accusers and potentially appoint a lawyer that I don't agree with.
Right.
So these are just little legal wranglings that, but important ones, because they don't provide access to justice. They don't provide a fair trial, but stacks the deck against the accused. So there's a couple of items in there, but there's a litany. For example, I am a senior citizen now. I feel good. I feel healthy. I work a lot, but with age, my hearing, I have difficulty hearing after a lifetime of working around machinery and equipment as an electrician and in the bush. I've got poor hearing, and I asked the judge to accommodate this disability by allowing me to record the audio or to have a friend in the court assist me. Both those very reasonable accommodations, which are fairly standard and agreeable in most courts, in most cases.
And it's normal for a reporter to do exactly this for their note-taking, for their reporting. So reporters would be allowed to do this.
Yeah, but they refuse to allow me that. And I guess the greatest one, the other one that is, the Crown is seeking to prevent any publication of any information on this trial in the pretrial process. And I'll characterize this to your audience. Everybody in Canada has been subjected to a relentless tsunami of falsehoods over COVID for the last 4 years. And of course, those were the things that caused those events in Ottawa to happen: the mandates, the vaccine mandates, the mask mandates, the curfews, the lack of mobility. That's what generated all these people to come to Ottawa back in January and February of 2022. So all those, which we now know, the jab was not safe nor effective. The masks were not effective. The isolation was not effective. And there is overwhelming evidence that the pandemic was a con job by everyone. Most everyone was conned by Pfizer, Moderna, our governments, big tech, powers that be. And the Crown has suggested that if I talk about this pretrial, then I will taint the jury pool. But
are you planning a jury?
Oh yes, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I will not allow my fate to be in the hands of a single judge. I have a right to a jury trial, and that's what will.
Okay.
So, but here you go. This overwhelming propaganda machine for the last 4 years that continues today, that is confusing the jury pool, confusing the public, that is providing incorrect and false information to people. That's allowed to continue. But anybody who opposes it, well, we have to put a muzzle and a gag and try to put a publication ban on my defense. So I'm going to fight these things. I'm going to fight them hard. And I have no doubt that we will kill this monster called the legal system at the end of the day. Expose that it is morally bankrupt, that it is in a financial conflict of interest, that it is politically charged and motivated. And I've said this in the past, I'll say it again. The law, because I was a legislator, I crafted and debated and voted on law. The law is intended, it's designed to be a shield against tyranny, a shield against authoritarianism. It is there to safeguard and protect the freedoms, the property, the well-being of society, of individuals within society. And now we see that the law is being used not as a shield, but as a sword to skewer and to slay and take away and deprive people's freedoms, people's well-being, their prosperity. And I'm going to turn that law back into what it ought to be, and that is a shield that protects people from these petty little tyrants and abusers, like what we're seeing in Coutts, which we're seeing in Ottawa, where we're seeing so many people being subjected to these petty little abusive tyrants. I've dealt with people like that in the past, in political parties and in government, and I don't mind taking on these buggers in the courts either.
Correct. And Randy, I'm very proud of you, because what you're doing is you're taking on a pretty big beast here for sure. And if there's one thing that can come out of your endeavor, and this is what I'm really paying close attention to, because I think you might be the groundbreaker for this, is to attack publication bans. They're actually I call them truth bans, because they don't ban publication. They only ban publication of the truth. So you could publicize and publish the falsehoods all day long. They'll let you do that. So malinformation all day long. They're happy that you do that. But the moment you publish the truth, then you're in trouble. You're in trouble. So it's not a publication ban, because you can publish lies all day long. It's a truth ban. So I'm very, very curious on how you're going to be able to do that. You maybe challenge it. They may have to come at you. They may do a contempt of court against you that you eventually win something. But October 2022 or 2023, so just a couple months ago, the Supreme Court has upheld a definition of the pretrial bans for publication and broadened the scope of it way beyond what its intent was. So I absolutely think this needs to be challenged. If anything comes out of this, your 9 charges, God bless you for fighting those. But the publication ban, I think that's one of the biggest problems with the justice system recently, is because that's a truth ban. Full stop. And we see this all over Coutts. Like, this happens everywhere in Alberta. It's frustrating.
Yeah. No, listen, we know this intuitively. We know this historically. This is bred into us. We know this. The only people that want to hide their actions are those people who are engaged in wrongdoing or engaged in actions and behaviors that they would be ashamed of if they were known. That's why, the adage in due process, and and it's a hallmark, is for justice to be done, it must also be seen to be done. So
Correct.
the publication bans are to be in those very specific cases where, a minor child might be involved and you want to protect their identity, or the victim of a sexual abuse or assault, or in the case of national security, where secrets to the defense of the country may be exposed. So that's the groundwork. Everything else must be public. And here we are, mischief charges, trumped up and BS, assault charges now are too dangerous to allow the public to see. But I think, there's a couple things that I want to share with the audience, because this is what I'll be sharing with the Crown as well. And I just want to read a little bit. It's the Public Prosecution Service of Canada is the governing body. It is the legislation that authorizes the Crown attorneys to act, and it also describes and prescribes how they must act. So let me just read. This is you can get this on the website under the federal government Public Prosecution Service of Canada. And it states, this is 2.2, duties and responsibilities. Crown Counsel's primary interest is not to secure a conviction. Rather, it is to pursue justice. In doing so, Crown Counsel represents the public's interest.
Mm-hmm.
They are not lawyers for the police, the victims, or the accused. The Supreme Court of Canada articulated that the Crown Counsel's role in the context of a criminal prosecution in its landmark decision, Boucher, right? But it goes on. It cannot be overemphasized that the purpose of criminal prosecution is not to obtain a conviction. It is to lay before a jury what the Crown considers to be credible evidence relevant to what is alleged as a crime. Now,
wow.
Our Crowns have forgotten the manual. They have forgotten, and they now believe that they are instruments of the state to find convictions everywhere. I'm going to remind those Crowns and the judge just what the purpose, what their obligations are, and because there's one other really powerful item that the Crown and the judges, I believe, have forgotten or disregarded, and that is the solicitor's oath. Every lawyer in Ontario, in every province, but I'm going to speak about Ontario here. So every judge, every Crown attorney has sworn an oath when they became licensed at the bar, right? And I'll just read a little bit from that oath. It says, I shall neglect no one's interest and shall faithfully serve and diligently represent the best interests of my clients. I shall not pervert the law to favor or prejudice anyone, but in all things I shall conduct myself honestly and with integrity and civility. I shall champion the rule of law and safeguard the rights and freedoms of all persons. Every lawyer in Canada has taken such an oath. Every judge has. And I think it's time that we bloody well remind them that their role, their responsibility is to safeguard the rights and freedoms of individuals, not just to attack them, persecute them, and try to ruin them financially in the process.
Look, Rule 2.2, I think, is going to become very important for people who want accountability and go after the Crown after they've done stuff like this. I have a gentleman in Windsor that was on the show just the other day, and he had the exact same thing. Okay, false charges. He was vindicated by a drone video that showed that he was where he was supposed to be, not where the police said he was. So he was vindicated. However, during his proceedings, the Crown was very vocal, and it's on the record that the entire reason for pursuing charges against him was to set an example for others.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely pursuing a conviction, not pursuing what's right for the public, and certainly was not right for him because he actually didn't do anything wrong. But the Crown was willing to sacrifice this gentleman. Sacrifice. I'm pretty sure nowhere in the prosecution statute does it say you're allowed to sacrifice people, but that's what they were doing, sacrificing him to the public to show everybody else what will happen to you if you protest against this government. Now, let's keep in mind, even that message to the public is a miscarriage of justice because he didn't actually do anything wrong. So we're not learning a lesson from his mistake because he didn't do a mistake. So I think Rule 2.2 should be at the heart of a lot of lawsuits against the Crown because that's exactly what they're vitiating.
We know that this was the purpose of all these charges in Ottawa and elsewhere.
Correct.
There was a couple things. The first one, those events in Ottawa embarrassed the government. They embarrassed their government because all these significant numbers of Canadians had now rejected the narrative of fear. All these Canadians understood that they were being conned, and they came to Ottawa to oppose the con job by our governments. So that was an embarrassing time, and politicians hate to be embarrassed. Trust me, that's the worst thing for a politician. So they had to create a narrative that deflected the responsibilities and that attacked the people who were embarrassing them. And that's why they came up with this whole narrative of an insurrection, overthrowing democracy, a bunch of yahoos and racists and misogynists and blah, 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 blah. But that wasn't sticking because everything was so peaceful and so exuberant and so joyful. So they had to find some villains. They manufactured some villains in Coutts. They manufactured some villains in Ottawa to justify that false narrative of the overthrow of democracy. And then one other thing that was important in this was to intimidate the rest of Canadians. Go after a few people, some higher profile people, and make examples of them and try to intimidate Canadians from having a voice, having a backbone, and being out opposing this tyranny and this injustice. And, listen, government is a big apparatus. The state is a big apparatus. But, I always understood as a young boy growing up, was the bigger they are, the harder they fall. And that's what we have to do is they're big, but they're not that big. And they're big, but they can still be taken down. And their lies and their falsehoods will take them down.
Yeah, and they were effective because there's two things that they really attacked, and it was effective even to this day, Randy. And we're still trying to get out of the gutter on this one. Fundraising and leadership. So fundraising, they attacked it by shutting down the Give Send Go, attacking people who donated, even the police officer for $50. So they made Canadians very wary about fundraising. And then leadership. Because they went after Tamara and Chris and you and others, it made it difficult for people to become and identify themselves as leaders. So we saw this happen with that attempt to do another convoy where nobody's a leader. Like they're actively trying to make sure that nobody is identifying as a leader. And that's why it's going to be difficult to mount another, I don't say attack, but another protest, because who wants to be Chris Barber and Tamara Litch next time around? Who wants to be pulled over across the country on warrants and put into jail? And who wants to go through that? Well, nobody. So they made an example of leaders. And again, they didn't do anything wrong. So I think, eventually we're going to get to that. But they also went after fundraising, which made it really difficult to go ahead and mount a resistance of some sort. So it's still working. But Randy, I think what you're doing here is going to help open that door to leaders again, because you're going to ideally fix this whole mischief stuff and show people that you can fight 9 criminal charges, even self-represented. Are you using a charter for this? Are you using a charter in any way for this?
Not at the present time, but of course the charter, like the Jordan ruling, is a derivative of our charter.
Hmm.
There's a number of things in the charter that potentially can be utilized. But right now, I want to have my day in court. Like I truly do. I want to have my day in court, and I want to expose the lies and the con job that the Canadian public were exposed to. I want to expose this agenda of fear and falsehoods. And I know this. I have the disclosure now, or I have some of it. The disclosure now. This is approaching 2 years, and it was just this week that I got a video of my interview with the Ottawa Police that took place on March 28th, 2022. So nearly 2 years just to get a video. There's still about another dozen items outstanding that the police haven't provided to me. But one of the things that they have provided is I now know that the investigation into me was launched and initiated by an elected Ottawa politician. Right? That is what I know.
They're supposed to direct the police.
It was an elected individual in Ottawa, senior person, called up and sent a letter to the chief of police and others about investigating my actions.
Okay,
right?
that's not supposed to happen.
So that happened on, and I just to give everybody some context here as well. This great assault on Parliament Hill that I apparently was engaged in with the steel barricade, and go on my YouTube channel. It's 24 seconds long. You can watch. That is the entirety of the police case and evidence. And that happened on January 29th. They didn't begin the investigation into my actions until after I announced I was no longer going to seek elected office. They weren't going to touch me if I remained in elected office.
Oh, wow. Okay. I can see the dots coming together here.
Yeah. But as soon as I announced that triggered my political opponents and political opposition in Ottawa to use the law as a sword against me. And these people, the Crown and the police, also groveling for recognition by the political state, did their bidding and began the investigation into me.
Wow. Well, let's take a look at your weapon here with the great assault on Parliament Hill. I pulled up the video here. So, folks, if you have children, maybe now's the time to remove them from the room because this is a great assault on Parliament Hill. So let's go ahead. And if you're pregnant and all that kind of stuff, take a deep breath. This is vicious.
Let's go.
Oh, wow.
Go!
All right. First of all, I love hearing that sound. I can't.
Recordings.
I never get tired of hearing those horns. But second, I saw what happened was you moved the fence a little bit, and then you moved it maybe 2 or 3 feet more.
Yeah.
And then you saw a couple officers walk off from below on the screen towards you.
Yeah.
So are those the officers that feel like you threw that fence at them? Are those the ones that are claiming that?
Listen, the officers never said that. That was
Okay.
the Crown prosecutor, Tim Whiteman, who described that event as me throwing a steel barricade at the police. And that was what they used to justify all the significant bail conditions on me, my prohibition from attending Ottawa, which all remain. The prohibition on me speaking with material witnesses, my prohibition on speaking on various subjects, was all derived from the Crown's fabrication to the bail judge that I threw that barricade and that I was a violent, uncontrollable individual.
Wow. Wow. Okay, Randy. So I'm disturbed. So the two officers we saw come off are the ones that are worried about you cross-examining them, and this is why they're looking at that rule. So those officers, according to the crowd, they're going to be intimidated by you if you ask them questions in a cross,
and that they would suffer, PTSD or something if I was to cross-examine them. The sun is coming up. I'm just going to close the curtain here a little bit.
No problem. And what we'll do is we'll introduce Amanda too, because Amanda has popped in and we got to see her. Amanda, thanks for making time for us. You're a bit of a star now. You're all over the place. You're on Viva. You're on shows like crazy now, which is great.
Because of you.
Sure. No, I think it's really because of you. I identified that you really should be in front of the camera. I'm just an encourager, and hopefully it goes well for you. I think you're doing a great job. Now, the reason why you're here is not because you're an awesome person. We just like to bring awesome people on. You're here because you're actually assisting. First, you're covering the Randy situation. So you're covering the court matter itself. And you're also trying to help him because like a friend of the court, like somebody that can assist Randy for note taking, because it's not that he's not doing a good job. He's doing a great job. But he does have a hearing issue and he should be able to capture notes and be able to do some of that. So you've been trying to assist with that. So go ahead.
And it's not even like even just a hearing for Randy, right? When he's busy, he has a question to ask and then they're answering, he needs to, write it down, and he needs to keep the pretrial moving and keep the flow. It would be kind of odd to go, okay, just check, Your Honor, and then, take some notes and then keep going. And we do that. We do ask for a moment, and we do. But in terms of Randy, even if he could hear perfectly, the request is there. And in my opinion, it's not absurd to just have someone take notes. I mean, the media can record, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
So if the media can record, why can't Randy record?
No. And what's interesting about that, Amanda, and thanks for joining, but, the Crown has two Crown attorneys in there prosecuting me. One is making the arguments. The other one is taking the notes and providing the additional material. So, like that is a normal practice. It was the same thing. The courtroom is similar to the committee hearings at the legislature, where you have a chair in the courts. Of course, it's a judge, but you have a chair to keep the matter moving and to rule on objections or points of order or what have you. And then you have witnesses appearing in the committee hearings, and the elected members question them, and we have our staff in that committee room as well to continue to take notes and to provide material to those elected members who are questioning the delegates or deputants to a committee. So this is this is a normal practice. It's difficult to have a fair trial if you're not permitted to engage with at least the similar opportunities as the other side. So, okay, maybe if they don't want me to have somebody else, you kick out the other Crown out of there too, and let's go one-on-one, and let's see who wins.
No, absolutely. And sorry, go ahead, Amanda.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I was just going to say, and that's just it, right? It's just an imbalance. And if Randy is struggling with all the clout and, attention that he can garner to support him, if he's having a hard time, I can't even imagine, the gentleman that you spoke to last week, like you were saying in Windsor, like these people are fighting these battles alone. who don't have the assistance of people pumping their information on social media and driving support, because it does help to have a little bit of support behind you, right? Whether it's financial, whether it's you can do it, you know, the rah, like keep the good fight, because we all need that. And if I'm so grateful that Randy is doing this. I'm so grateful that Randy reached out to me initially to do when he first let go of David Amber. Because I want to see this unfold. I want to see Randy expose everything. And I think that's the goal more than anything. He can Jordan out if he wants to, right, Randy? I think it's going to be great that you're going to start exposing what Jason and I wouldn't have been able to expose, for example. Like, you know, he was an officer of the court. I may be an officer if I choose to. And we're both not, you know?
Look, and one more thing there, Amanda. I'm a conservative, so I hate making a statement. Can you move to the left a little bit?
Oh, there we go.
Just a little bit to the left. Thank you very much. Randy, I do know, though, that you are a criminal. I got proof. You have bail conditions that don't allow you to be downtown Ottawa without counsel, and you don't have counsel. So you have at least 3 breaches there. What's going on with that? Because that has to be a condition that's got to be removed. Or clarified that you can go down there, because technically, according to your letter, you just admitted to a criminal offense, a bail breach. So what are you expecting them to do about that?
Well, on November 17th, I identified that to the judge and to the Crown. I said, I am now representing myself. I'm in downtown Ottawa, in the courthouse, in breach of my bail conditions. I think it's time we revisit these bail conditions. And that's really clearly the irony here should be obvious to everyone. I'm summoned to court, but if I attend, I'm breaching my bail conditions. If I don't attend, I'm also breaching and in contempt of the court. So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. So it's been a month now. The Crown has yet to issue the variations on the bail. And I've said to the Crown, like, keep the surety in place. There's a $35,000 bond in place for me keeping of the peace. Keep that in place. But you cannot frustrate my ability to defend myself. You cannot prevent me from speaking with material witnesses. And that's what the bail conditions do. There's a great number of people that I'm not allowed to speak with who were and are witnesses to my actions in Ottawa. And I'm also prevented from going to the crime scene and taking pictures, collecting evidence, taking measurements of the great assault, or the scene of the great assault, which again is violating my ability to defend myself. So, you know, and I point that out in my letter to the senior judge once again. Like, this cannot be permitted to stand. Like, you cannot guarantee me the right to defend myself and then put these shackles on my legs and my feet and my hands and put a gag and a muzzle and a bag over my head to defend myself in the court. So, you know, they're setting themselves up. People should be able to see, and this Crown should be able to see what is going to happen here if they continue to act in an obstructionist fashion, in a manner that is prejudicial to my fair hearing and defense. It shouldn't take a rocket scientist to see, and they're going to have to cough it up. They're going to have to cough things up, or else, you know, like it really, they are running a big risk. And it's all because they don't want, you know, like even this element, they figure that they can financially ruin me. and make me plead out. So one of the consequences of not being allowed to record things is I have to order the transcripts for every hearing.
That's right.
That takes time and significant amount of money. I have to apply to the courts to get the typed out transcripts from every event because I can't record it. And I need those actual statements to be able to then demonstrate to the court how the Crown is trying to put the screws to me, not to seek justice, just trying to skewer me and ruin me. So they've got another thought coming. I'm not going to go down very easily.
Yeah. And this is a bit of an entrapment trick, by the way, just so people understand. This is how innocent people can end up becoming criminals according to the justice system. So you're an innocent person, you get charged with a crime, you agree to bail conditions so you don't sit in jail while you're waiting for your trial, because again, you're innocent, you don't want to be sitting there. So you agree to some bail conditions. And I saw a comment, does Crown have a contract with Randy? They do. It's the bail conditions. It's a contract. So they put you under this bail conditions. And then sometimes they're onerous and you accidentally, like Tamara taking a picture with her counsel in the room, but not in the picture. That was enough to revoke her bail. And then you actually can be charged for breach of bail conditions. And that's a legitimate charge.
Yeah.
The person who had nothing wrong becomes a criminal according to the legal system.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It is, and we've seen this with Tamara, and it's been one of the reasons why I was hesitant to go to public events, because I've had people reach out or attempt to reach out to me who are prohibited, that I'm prohibited to speak with. So I'd say, I'm not going to communicate. I'm not going to get caught in this trap. And it's also limited my ability for public exposure going places, because I might inadvertently run into somebody at some event that I'm, and somebody take a picture, put it on social media, and back in the crowbar in. So
correct.
So now I've put it on the record. It's right under the nose and in the face of the Crown that their bail conditions are a farce, and I dare them, put me in jail for a breach on February 12th when I come back to Ottawa to go to court. Do it. I'll be happy to stand in front of the bail judge and said, well, yeah, I breached the condition, but I was also summoned by this court to be here. So you tell me what to do then. They don't want to have their contradiction and their irony and their hypocrisy exposed. So they're too fearful to do that at the present time.
Yeah, and you've been really good at that, because even on your first interview here, we had to go through certain topics we couldn't touch because they're part of your bail conditions. And getting out of your letter, so I read it very carefully, you're attempting to modify these bail conditions with the Crown. You've wrote to them, you've asked them for consent on it, because that's one way to get it modified. But it looks like they're going to require you to do a motion, so actually take up court resources to actually address this issue. It's looking like that's the direction it's headed. Can you correct me on that? Are you getting cooperation from the Crown, or are you going to have to go through the court for this?
No, like the Crown has refused to communicate with me outside of the court. And again, this is not the way, typically the defense and the Crown meet and resolve, understand each other's side, resolve minor items of disagreement outside of the court. That's the way normal people conduct themselves.
Reasonable people.
Yeah. So but the Crown has sent me a letter saying they're not going to talk to me ever outside of the courtroom. And I said to the judge, I said, listen, you guys you guys are under a time frame of Jordan. You have an obligation not to waste the court's resources and times. We have many, many serious criminals of rape and murder and whatnot that need to be heard in the courts. And you are putting all those cases in jeopardy, going after me and Tamara and others on these trumped up mischief and politically motivated mischief charges. So I said to the judge, I said, it's within your authority to admonish the Crown's behavior and encourage the Crown to conduct themselves with good faith and have these conversations so we don't waste the court's time. But the judge has so far refused to admonish the Crown or encourage them to be reasonable in their prosecution. They're apparently quite willing to waste court resources and time and potentially put violent criminals on the streets because these mischief charges are more important.
Who knows? Maybe the Crown has become so scary even to judges because how vindictive they are and how much power they have. Even the judge is a little bit worried about getting on the wrong side there. I'm not saying that's what's going on here. The judge could actually be against you as well. But maybe the judge is worried about, not signaling his left turn and getting pulled over and have a problem himself. Amanda, this actually, one of the court hearings, I think one of the first ones, or if not the first one, it was open to the public. You were there, but then I think you got kicked out, and then they stopped the stream for public and kind of went behind closed doors. Am I getting that correct?
So my first time with Randy, actually, he was still represented with counsel, and that was his motion to change venue. So that was public. But then when he took Amber off record, that's correct. We went back to the court. It was a judicial pretrial, and I had a hunch that it was supposed to be closed. So I had asked the court reporter before, or the court reporter, or the court clerk.
Clerk, yeah.
Yeah, the clerk. Prior to the judge coming in the Zoom starting, I said, "Oh, is there a publication ban on this? I'm curious. Like, is this?" And neither one of the two knew. Neither one of the two individuals in the room knew whether or not this JPT had a pub ban, or it was just a ban, just not normally published, because it's usually conducted behind closed doors with counsel. Mm-hmm. But if there's no counsel, I mean, why does it have to be behind closed doors? Why can't Randy opt to have it not behind closed doors? It's up to him, in my opinion, and he's right. In when he was saying earlier with regards to little concessions that these crowns and the judge can make. I mean, the judge has the authority to do whatever she wants. That was Rule 2.01 of how they're supposed to conduct themselves. I had posted a tweet on that. A judge can do anything in the interest of justice. And so when we got there and I think there was over 50 people in the Zoom room. And there was, I think, probably 20 or 30 people in the courtroom with us. And so when it went to start, the Crown right away, he walked in angry. Like he knew there was people in the Zoom, there was people in the room, like you could. And so they cleared the Zoom, and everybody was on their best behavior initially. So anyone who says that people were being rude, everyone was fine. Everyone was quiet. People got told to turn their cameras off. That's what they did. But as soon as they were advised that they were going to be clearing the room, that's when the comments started coming out. And of
course,
I'm not supposed to find it funny, and I'm not supposed to, but I'm not licensed, so I thought it was funny. Like it was funny in that, not funny. It was true human responses coming through the Zoom. You were hearing the frustration across Canada. And when you're alone, like Randy was, anybody who's alone would like to hear support. And I'm not saying that he was supporting that at all, because he wasn't. I thought it was appropriate because that's how people felt.
Correct.
And I think we've come to a point in society that we can't talk about how things make us feel. And that's a problem. And if you feel like justice is not justice, you should be able to say it, licensed or not.
Yeah. So let me add to that. Like the court was open. The the Zoom link was public. There was all these people were on the Zoom, all these people were in the court because there had been no indication that there would be a publication ban. It wasn't, as Amanda said, when the Crown, when it came live, I spoke with the judge first, asking for my an accommodation to record things, and there was a couple of little early on items that was being broadcast and that people in the courtroom were witnessing. Then the Crown interjected and said, "Dear Madam Justice, there's a rule here in the rule book that I'm allowed to pull out that says I can ask for a publication ban on the judicial pretrial, and I'm invoking that, but the judge still had the authority at that time to say, no, it's in the public interest that this judicial pretrial be public. But the judge did not invoke that, did not utilize her authority, and just went along with the Crown's assertion that there's a rule here and he's allowed to use it, regardless if it's not in the interest of the public.
My goodness.
And even more, Jason, to add to that, what was interesting, so when they were kicking us all out of the room, Randy asked if I could stay just for note-taking purposes, right? Just to help take notes. And he said she's a paralegal candidate, right? So just to kind of give me a little bit of, I may be an officer of the court one day, so I will keep this confidential. I will follow the rules of, note-taking, etc. And so he says, and they asked, well, is she licensed? No, she's not licensed yet. Well, then she can't stay. Okay. So then he returns the following week with a licensed lawyer who also couldn't stay.
They're making rules on the fly here.
So well, that's just it. They're making them up as they go along. And then, so he brings a friend of the court who is a lawyer in Ontario, who has practiced and is covering other Freedom Convoy trials, Brian Duty. And they
but they still didn't allow him.
They rejected that.
And they're going to bring in they're going to appoint a lawyer.
Right.
Like in what world, like this amicus, we have one sitting right here, right now, today, ready to help out, right? And they kick him out and they're going to find somebody else. So we're talking about these delays. Well, there was somebody there willing to do it. And I think he would be even willing to be the amicus. So I don't understand how the Crown Attorney can go around telling people, this is in the interest of justice, this is in the interest of justice, or any part of the judicial process to say this, and then turn around and delay it even more because the court needs to pick a lawyer when there was one right there. It's.
I think it's clear.
Doing it to Randy, all I have to say is if they're doing it to Randy, I cannot imagine what they are doing to others. And it's high time that people start coming forward, reach out to me, reach out to you, Jason. And it's about time that we start exposing this, because there was once upon a time where you would think nobody would believe you when you talked about police brutality or you talked about Crown Attorney corruption. You never, most people thought that we were operating in a good country. We're Canada, but
we want to believe that.
We wanted to believe that. You're right. We did. And once you realize that that's not the case, and if they're doing it to Randy, we're all in trouble. You can like Randy or not for his politics, okay? I that is not the issue here, okay? I didn't know much about Randy prior to becoming engaged with him with regards to his trial. I met him the first day with David Amber, and I I want people to understand that they need to pay attention to Randy and they need to pay attention to this case. He is spearheading for all of us. He is once again putting his neck out there when nobody else would. And I'm so like, I get messages from people who are like, you know, I like you, but you're siding with Randy. No, I'm not siding with Randy. This has nothing to do with Randy's politics. And I want every Canadian to recognize that this could be you or your son or your daughter. And that's my issue. My issue is that I'm an advocate and I'm raising little advocates. I'm raising girls who speak their mind. I'm raising girls who call out something that seems unjust, even when it comes to me. Even if I do something that makes no logical sense because I've just told them to do it. And if they question it and they can argue it and they can come up with a better reasoning, I'll give it to them. You know, I do. I give it to them. It's not my way or the highway. It's not how I parent. And unfortunately, I'm from Ottawa and there's a lot of people who are just do as they're told people here. And it's really not okay for anyone to have a problem with Randy for his politics when we're dealing with something not even related. This is all a matter of him protecting our rights by going on the Hill, being there on January 28th when everybody else failed us, all of them. And for him to be charged 2 months after the fact, he was charged literally because it was January 29th was the incident.
When he announced he wasn't running anymore, might have been the trigger on that one. When he was announcing he's not running anymore, that might have been the trigger for that.
Well, that's just it, right? Like the 2 months after the fact. So every Canadian needs to be watching this because there's a little bit more opportunity for exposure of what's really going on behind closed doors. And that's what's super important. Right now, you and I can talk about Coots until we're blue in the face. We have no idea what's going on. We don't. I mean, you know what's going on. Like Mocha knows what's going on because he's sitting in there, but the rest of Canada doesn't. And that's a problem.
Correct.
A very big problem. And I will say really quickly, sorry, and not to come to the MSN's defense, because I'm not a fan of MSM, but CBC is constantly fighting pub bans for us. CBC they're the ones that are always wanting to be able to produce the articles, right? So they're the ones fighting for us. There was a recent Supreme Court of Canada ruling this summer, and I was trying to find it while I was getting ready, about publication bans. And the victims who wanted the bans lifted won a case this summer in Supreme Court. So there is some leading material. Something about the actual documents, though, that they've submitted is still subject to publication ban. So there is some gray area, of course, because nothing can be easy, right? Jordan, I thought the Jordan ruling. I thought was made the ambiguous reasonable pretty clear, but then the lawyers got their mitts on it and now it's all been
as they do. Yeah, as they do. Look, I'm going to step in here. CBC, look, you gave them a little bit of clout there. You helped them a bit, but I'm going to just kind of forewarn you there. They are theater professionals. So they're really, really good at making you believe something, including making you believe that they're fighting for you on publication bans. I can tell you that they can fight harder. Their arguments could be better, and they can actually win a lot more of those that they're not. Here in Alberta,
that's a good way to look at it. Okay.
Here in Alberta, they actually supported the Crown's application for a publication ban on the envelope stuff. I'm sure you may have heard about that in Alberta for the Coots men. The envelope, it was supported by the CBC lawyer for the publication ban. So they not only pick and choose, not only do they pick and choose which ones that they're going to get behind, I think it's more theater so that people like you can say exactly what you just said there. Hey, look, they're trying. Are they?
Interesting.
Are they? I would put it to you on that one. Randy, I know that your time is up, so I only have a couple more little comments here for you. I think why you're seeing these rule changes and making up the rules as they go along is because you're outsmarting them. You're 100% outsmarting them. They're like, oh, damn, that's right. If he's self-represented, he has to be summoned. He has to be here. We can't have, like, you're outsmarting them. And this is why you're bringing the public with you, too. And this is why the Crown is really, really frustrated with that. Here in Alberta, the Crown doesn't go through the front door anymore. He goes through the back door because, and I'm not joking, it's because he's not worried about the physical anything, because this is Canada. We don't do that. But he is shamed. He's ashamed because he knows what he's doing. Like, his heart knows what he's doing. So he's ashamed. So I think maybe this is why you saw some aggravation from the Crown, pushing hard to get a pub ban in place, calling for rule whatever. The judge just accepts, kicks everybody out. I think that's because you're outsmarting them, Randy. 100%. Last comment I want to make, and then I'll let you finish up there, Randy. Amanda, you and I are lucky because I saw his bail conditions, and I saw the list of people he's not allowed to speak to. There's reporters. There's independent reporters on there. So if we existed back then, I assure you, we'd be on his list because all we do is report. Because he's got some reporters on there, independent reporters on there. So they're trying to silence him. They're trying to stop him from going public with things. They're trying to stop him from gaining public attention and public support. They're failing. And Randy, you're outsmarting them. So keep it up, brother, because I think you're actually going to cause some sort of decision or some sort of case law that's going to help a whole bunch of people going forward.
Well, thank you for the kind words, Jason. And listen, what it is, the adage I would say is they're trying to serve me up a shit sandwich and I'm not eating it. Right?
Yeah.
And that's really what, they're trying to make me eat this garbage, and I'm not going to. But yes, the Crowns are going in the back door. These guys know they're engaged in evil and wrongdoing, and that's why they want my trial to be like the Coots trial, where nobody can see the evil that they're engaged in. Nobody can, and if you can't see, and if you can't collect evidence about the evil, then it becomes very difficult to slay that evil.
Correct. Correct.
And that's why, no, I'm not going to play their game. I'm not going to eat their sandwich. I'm going to tell people what's actually going on. And I would just add one other point. Amanda made reference that that this could be you,
Yep.
But I would characterize it just slightly different. And I would say this will be you in this society if we allow this to continue. If we allow our justice system to become a sword and an instrument of evil, then everyone will at some point in time become an enemy of the state. At some point in time, you will have a opinion or view that differs from the government's view, and you will become an enemy. We've seen this play out in history throughout humanity. That whether it was the Inquisition, whether it was Stalin's USSR, whether Pol Pot, it doesn't matter. If you do not defeat evil, it will get you, right?
Correct.
In one way or the other. So this is a battle for everyone. It's a battle for my children, my grandchildren. I am not going to allow them to grow up in a society where they have to be, where they are intimidated by the government, where they must live in fear of the government. That's not a country that I will accept as Canada, where we fear government. That's any country where people live in fear of government. That's a totalitarian state. That's an authoritarian state. It is an evil state, and we can't allow Canada to become an evil state.
And I think we're already there a little bit, just to add to that, because like you guys had mentioned, in terms of fundraising for independent reporters, people are terrified to e-transfer money.
Yep.
And
That's
use
part of the
Give,
problem.
Send, Go, or use Stripe or any of those because they're terrified, but that sending me $20, they might get their bank account frozen.
Yep.
Like that's a problem.
So maybe
We're
I'll
working
end
on
off on that. I have to leave, but if you do want to help out, you can go to nomorelockdowns.ca, and you can also,
donate.
if you want to get away and have a weekend or a day of freedom at Scuttlebutt Lodge, you can also. Jason's been to the lodge. We did
with my family and children. It was lovely.
So you can help out in a few different ways if you like, and also by sharing and helping others to become aware and informed of what is going on. And I thank everyone for the great support and help that is out there that people are showing. And I'd also like to say to everyone, have a very, very Merry Christmas.
Yes.
And because I'm going to, all the family will be here for Christmas. So enjoy Christmas. And let's make sure that all our Christmases are joyful and not living in fear. Thank you.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas. Love you, Randy. Last comment I'm going to make, and I'll say goodbye to you. We said it could be us one day. It will be us one day. I'm going to remind you, it is us. There's over 100 people that I haven't spoken about that are already going through this. So some of us are already going through this. So it's not just could be or will be. It is. We're at that point now. Randy, you have yourself a great day. Say hi to the family and enjoy the tractor with the grandchildren. You have a wonderful family. Thank you, Randy.
Bye-bye.
And Amanda, stick around. We can hang out for a bit.
Okay. Bye, Randy.
Bye, Randy. All right. See, that's why we got to get you scoot to the left. So now you're in the middle. Look at it. There you go. Here we go. Wow. What a gentleman. What a man. He is standing up for us. It's difficult for him because he's got to be careful what he says because he's got bail conditions even around this conversation. You have to be careful. And look, I think we're at the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. I think that's their plan. They want to blind us. They want to make us deaf. So people like you and I, don't speak it because we can expose their evil if we can see it and hear it. So this could be their philosophy. They're the three monkeys, the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. And that's kind of our plan right now. And I think, Amanda, look, I'm just going to put this out there and it's going to suck. But there's going to likely be a journalist who becomes a martyr because they're going to get charged, maybe with contempt, publication ban, breach, something along those lines. And that journalist is going to go through the process and hopefully come out victorious because that's going to be how we fight these publication bans. It's not going to be CBC standing in front of a court looking like they're trying. It's going to be somebody who actually violates it and gets charged. And then that changes history for us because that's usually how the courts will test laws that are no good. Somebody gets charged, they go into court, and then a decision's made at that point. So I'm not calling you or me or anybody else, but I suspect that's likely going to be one of the steps to clean us up is a journalist who becomes a martyr because they maybe said too much according to the court, but they fight it. So yeah, I think I saw a little light bulb go up when I said, look, CBC's in the business of theater. They are meant to make it look like they're doing stuff, but not necessarily.
And that again, just that goes to show my naivety to everything, right? I really, I don't know. Yeah, that's why, like last week when I got upset because it was just so revealing how corrupt everything was compared to what I had understood Canadians to be, and I've gotten knocked at the knees a few times because I'm pretty naive when it comes to humans, right? I falsely, here's the thing, right? We think other people act the way we do, right? Like
correct. And when you say that, you mean like honestly, you want justice to win. We all watch those shows on TV where the justice comes out, the truth comes out, everything changes. We want to believe that.
Right.
Continue.
But we also like just how you interpret situations or how you bring them. We bring our like how we would approach it to the table, right? So like I never accused men of cheating on me because I never cheated. So it wasn't something that I would conceptualize. Like, that's what I mean.
Correct.
Like, if you're not doing it, you don't think other people are doing it.
Correct, because you think we're all basically the same. We have the same morals. We have same understanding for truth because that's how you work. But the more you're in this, well, exactly. The more you're in this, the more you find out. I went into paralegal with the exact same attitude. I'm like, look, we're going to go for justice. The judges are going to see the truth, and nobody lies. I was educated pretty quickly. I saw police officers lie through their teeth. I was like, wow, I can't believe that. I saw lawyers lie, play games. I saw paralegals lie, play games. I was devastated with that. And I saw judges treat people completely different. Let me just give you one example.
Yeah,
I had two matters. They're similar. Driving without insurance. Okay, it happens. It happens. I had one gentleman in Toronto. He brought it to me. Rich gentleman, Porsche, all that kind of stuff. I argued for him in court. I asked the judge for a reduction of the fine, and went from 4,000 down to 1,500. Judge said, "Okay, great." He admits, he's entering the plea, reduction of the fine. I accept from 4,000 on to 1,500. He was happy. He paid his bill. Same situation. Had a client, no insurance, even less than the other guy because all he did was drive around his block with a motorcycle. Well, the other guy was driving around the city in his Porsche with no insurance. Like, dude. But his other client, same thing. He pled, asked the court for a reduction, got zero. And this guy is not wealthy. He is definitely, obviously, strapped for cash. But I asked for a reduction. No, he didn't get one. So a gentleman who's clearly got the resources got it from 4 to 15. But somebody who doesn't have the resources and is there to seek justice or at least stand for justice wouldn't get it. So now that put him in a situation where he either can't work because he can't drive, or he breaks the law so he can work to start paying the stuff off. Like, it put him in such a weird predicament, and that jaded me. It jaded me a lot. Now, doing all this coverage like you're doing, I guarantee you're going to be seeing a lot of things that make you jaded, because as soon as you get that one decision from the judge, you're like, I can't believe how you got there. But they did. Yeah, it's going to happen. And I think it's happened a few times.
And I started getting there as well with just in class, because what people are falsely led to believe is the endorsements from a court proceeding represent what actually happened. And it's not. It's the, like, so I'm speaking of a law society case. So there was a paralegal looking to get their license. She had been, she'd worked a finance. She had done a trading or mutual funds, financial management prior to becoming a paralegal.
Okay.
Long story short, I was on the side of the law society when I heard the story explained to us verbally prior to going into the hearing. So it was an appeal. She was denied her license, and then we were at the appeal with the tribunal. So this is what we were listening in on. So I got the information of the original denial. And I remember thinking, well, she did all this. Like, good luck trying to get past good character, right? You can't, don't go into thinking that you can be a criminal and then try to be a lawyer, because that's not how it works, or a paralegal.
No. Yeah.
Well, when we started listening to the hearing, the tribunal, what happened in the original hearing was not even captured in the endorsement properly. I did a complete 180, and I was livid that how the story had been sold through the endorsement and through the conversations with, licensed people. And, it was a big conversation, because when there's a tribunal at the law society, like, people are against their own people, right? There's lots of conversation about it.
Mm-hmm.
But for the story to have been completely wrong compared to what came out through the appeal hearing, that day I decided, no matter what an endorsement says, it doesn't mean it captured what happened in the courtroom. And I want everything to be recorded like the States. I want everything to be televised. You
sound like Donald all of a sudden.
Well, it needs to be. It needs to be. From what I've seen, 4 months ago, if you asked me that question, I might have been on the fence. Not anymore. Not anymore. If the defendant or any part, like, there is absolutely no reason that we cannot be a little bit more open about how our processes are working, because that, after all, is technically what we're supposed to be aiming for, is, open
Correct.
and all of that.
Supposed to be a public court.
That's right. And we're constantly looking for ways to close it, hide the secrets. And I can say I've got somebody who I will be releasing it. Somebody who had a criminal matter, I think, or was criminal or family, I can't remember. In any event, there's 101 errors in the endorsement. 101. Now, I can tell you, I had an error in an endorsement. It was a family court one for a support amount. The person that typed it might have been a little bit, what do you call that when you mix your numbers up?
Dyslexic,
yes. So they just kind of like swapped two numbers.
That happens.
You know how long it took me to get that order corrected so that it could be enforced for collection of support?
Oh, because the numbers need to be accurate. Yeah.
And actually, you could have just done the math, and you could have just looked at the order, and it shows you all the numbers. And what it was the deduction of how much child support and his child support, and then it was just that deduction flip error. Anybody reading the order could have easily figured out what the answer was, right? Anybody. And they refused to. The Ministry of the Attorney General over at Financial Responsibility refused, and I had to get the order fixed. The order came out February 24th. I couldn't get it fixed until July.
Oh, wow.
July. No support, no enforcement, no nothing. And so these court orders are always wrong. These endorsements have errors. And it's so funny because when you file your documents, they always kick them back if there's an error. And then you get put back at the bottom of the list again.
Yep.
And then they're coming to you with actual errors, or something that was discussed and consented to doesn't get transferred to the endorsement properly. Like if a case conference happens in any court, all of that's done on consent. So there's no orders that a judge can make in a case conference. But what they can do is, encourage the parties to find issues that they consent and agree on. I've seen the consent items be typed incorrectly. Like, there is a huge typographical problem as well on their end. And it's really hard to get it fixed. And that's also a pretty big problem.
We had lots of problems for sure. On this Randy thing, though, if Randy was in Russia and the exact same thing happened, exact same facts, exact same situation, all that kind of stuff, the headlines here in Canada would be, look at Russia persecuting the political opponents.
Oh, totally.
But when it's in Canada, it's like, look at this strange, very violent man who's attacking the police officers. But if the exact same thing happened in a different country, Trudeau himself would come out and say, that's abhorrent. You should not be pursuing your political opponents like that. And I don't think Randy was wrong. When he announced that he was no longer going to run, they came after him. So they just demonstrated that there is two classes. If you're an elected official or if you're going to be playing in that game, maybe they'll leave you alone. But as soon as you become a commoner like the rest of us, they're going to come after you. Just like Bell said, they're going to hunt down everybody. And he was very clear about that. And it looks like he's doing that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap up, but I kind of actually want to throw, while we have the audience, a couple things out to them. First, follow the show, The Lavigne Show. You can find me on Rumble. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook and YouTube. So if you're on Randy's Facebook and YouTube, please go also join and follow my show as well, because you get lots of stuff like this on there. And you and I have been talking in the background about maybe doing a show. So I'm going to ask the audience here while we have it. Would you like to see Amanda and I get together on a show, something like a he said, she said, where we can kind of take issues? Maybe we don't fully agree. Maybe sometimes we agree, but expose them and talk about them. Is that something you guys would like? I think it would be fun to sit and chat with you. What do you think, Amanda?
Yeah, we've talked about it. I love your idea of the he said, she said. Usually we're on the same page, so we need to find some topics that we're not on the same page about.
I know a few already, but I think
you do. I know you
yeah.
do. We'll get there when we get there, but no, for sure. Like, we have our stuff that we don't agree on, and I know people think, oh, well, you're just agreeing with Jason. Well, no, we actually don't agree on a lot of things, but
sure, we're humans.
And that's what and that's the thing with our relationship, is we don't agree on stuff. I don't agree with some of the things you do. You don't agree with some of the things I do, but we can still bring awareness and work together on the things that we do agree on, and the things that we agree that need to be changed, and things.
And there's a value to that
impact
too.
More, that's right. Things that won't impact a huge group. You and I try to stay out of it as much as possible. I'm always looking out for the 40 million Canadians and not just me. So I think it would be good. I think it would be fun. It would be a different side of us, because, well, for you anyways, because when you're podcasting, you're not usually adversarial and do like a he said, she said type of style. So not, you know what I mean? Like, not.
Yeah, for sure.
Not
I
the
don't
same way
usually
that
have
you
somebody
and
to
I
bounce
would
off
be. Yeah, like you and I would be in terms of a he said, she said show. I can't see us being as respectful. You know what I mean? Because if we're trying to do like a he said, we're trying to get I could see it becoming a little bit more animated, which is great, which is fun.
Sure. Well, I think we're respectful enough that even if we get into a contentious issue where we are very opposed on it, I still think we can get through it. For example, I'm a left foot first type of person. I think you're a right foot first type of person. So we're going to clash on that one. And there's already a clip of me asking you to move to the left. So that might be clipped and then used against me. Look, he's trying to get people to move to the left. Weird things like that. But I really like the idea. And one of the ones that you bounced on me and I thought was really clever was to also open the show up to people that have issues and they want to have it not adjudicated or not necessarily even judged on, but to get what our opinions on. So, maybe some issue comes forward. Some neighbors are fighting over a tree over their fence, kind of like Judge Judy style, where it's not really a court, but you can get our opinion on it. And maybe we'll bring the audience into that. So there's really three opinions. There's his opinion, her opinion, and their opinion. And then we can see where that ends at the end. It's not a judgment. It's not binding or anything like that. It's just for fun. It's for entertainment. But it might be a good way to hash out some of the, for example, the divisions in the freedom movement, some of the problems in the freedom movement, some of the misunderstandings in it. These are all things that we could maybe bring forward and kind of hash out in a fun public way, but not a non-binding way, non-judicial. We don't want to get in trouble with any of the current courts, but it gives us a forum or a platform to people to maybe hash out some issues. I kind of liked your idea about that.
Yeah, and I mean, even I know you don't want to step on the courts and that, but I mean, even to the extent that we could do mediation, right? Because we're in Ontario. There's no requirement to add a mediator to your name, believe it or not. So there's no certification, no training, no nothing. It's just basically, do people trust that you're non-biased and you're going to pick the best outcome for both parties, right?
That'd be cool.
And so I know in Ontario, there's a big shift. Family lawyers are leaving family law and are going into mediation.
That's too bad. Well, actually, no, mediation is a better step than litigation.
Well, and that's just it. And I've talked to a lot of family lawyers, and I was hearing, and the reason for it is because there was a time that they could kind of guesstimate, kind of give an idea of where things would go with their client for their client. It's to the point now where they can't even do that. So lawyers are very, very apprehensive about letting any of their clients go before a judge, because a judge could literally have someone piss in their cornflakes and be absolutely abhorrent to either the applicant or the respondent in family court. But, so I think that in terms of mediation, I think that, even little, I know you say non-binding. See, here we are with the he said, she said already. Mm-hmm. I think maybe some people could come in with the agreement that whatever we decide, that's what they're going to run with when they leave.
That's like Judge Judy. Yeah. So there's a contract ahead of time.
That's right. If you got a husband and wife arguing whether or not they got a truck or a car, come in and say, tell me why you need a truck.
Yeah.
Tell me why you don't need a truck.
Well, bring me a husband and wife fighting over the flag. One wants it upside down, one wants it right side up. There's a topic.
Right? So, there's I think there's a lot that we could do. Even, landlords, neighbors, little contracts, there's little things that we could do to help, like you said, like Judge Judy, but not Judge Judy. It'll be us. He said, she said. And, yeah, I think we could also explore the binding option for people who want to come on and just have a situation resolved,
Well, I think what we just demonstrated to people is we can do this, and we just birthed a new show in front of them. This is how it works, folks. This is the process. This is the behind the scenes. This is how it works. So yeah, I want to do something, whether it's just you and I tackling issues, or we bring people in, or the audience is part of it as well. The sky's the limit for us. I think we can do a lot of things here, Amanda. I'm not sure if we can flush out your last name at some point, although it's right there on the screen. I can see it. But you might become the Madonna of the independent reporters. Just Amanda's good enough. People know who we're talking about.
Yeah, I guess Cannabis Court wasn't gonna cut it for.
It was a clever name, but outside of Canada, you had to think about it, and even inside of Canada, because when I first saw it. Yeah, because when I first saw it, I think I made a comment, but
yeah, and it's interesting because since I've changed my name, I've had a few. Okay, good. The cannabis confused me, and I was like, oh, okay. Like,
what, the actual drug or the name? What confused them? Cannabis, the drug, or
the drug can cause it.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, it was really just to get Miss Juno Beach Coach off my handle, because I just didn't want to upset them anymore.
Yeah.
With everything that was going on, and really my tweeting was only supposed to be 16 days.
Yeah, fair enough. And
I was supposed to go back and get a job and think about practicing, but life has taken me a different route and kind of forcing me to be here with you and discuss shows. But I'm glad that you were a licensed paralegal. You just haven't renewed. You're still there.
It's lapsed. It's
lapsed.
It's not
you haven't paid the fee. Yeah, exactly. Yep. I think there's a lot of good that can come from this, but it's definitely not what I anticipated, as you know.
No, it's a show I want to watch. This is why we keep talking about it, because I do want a show like that, whether it's me or not. I do want to see a show where people hash out freedom issues and stuff like that. And I don't know if you're going to.
It was pretty crazy on X the other day. Hey, so many people. Oh my gosh.
Oh boy, do I ever get attacked for one word now?
There was 7 of them going.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. And I'm sure they're going to pressure you to change your name from Amanda to a persona, because it's got the word man in there. We're going to have to swap it out to a persona. And I've got son in mind. That's gender specific. So I'm going to have to be something different.
Oh, yes.
My goodness.
Man. Oh, yeah. I didn't even notice that.
No, we both have a male name. I got son and you got man.
That's right.
Yeah. So there we go. We're just going to blow everybody's mind. But who knows? Maybe we'll get Rachel Gilmore on one day, and you and I can talk to her, and maybe we'll see where she's coming from. Who knows?
I saw a recent TikTok of hers. She's in a hot tub.
She's low key now ever since Hategate came out. But maybe we'll get Sophie Trudeau. Maybe get her on. Oh, Sophie, if you're watching, come on.
I'd actually prefer to talk to her boyfriend, the pediatrician.
Plural? Yeah, well, I want to know if he's vaccinated. I want to know if he's vaccinated.
That's what I want to know. I want to know if he vaxxed his kids.
Yeah, I want to know
what he told her about her kids and vaccines.
Maybe that's why the conversation started, and then the romance started, because he's the opposite of the ex. Who knows? But look, I think there's a dynamic here. I think the crowd's liking it. They're still here. Okay, we still have over 200 people checking us out talking about this.
So maybe there's something here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's with Rumble down. So if Rumble was up, we'd have double that.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
How many are viewing from Twitter? Because when I log in, I can't.
Twitter doesn't show up here. There's several. Like my count is only Facebook and YouTube, so there's 200 there. So I have no idea. Twitter, there's a couple hundred for sure. But yeah, that spinach in your teeth, it went well. Nobody complained about it.
Because that's what Viva said, right? Just make sure you'll be all right as long as there's no spinach in your teeth. Because all I kept saying was, do people really want to look at my why do you want to look at me and hear what I have to say? Right?
Look, but here's what Viva, and Viva said it right too. It's not about you. It's about what you're bringing, and people want the information. They don't care what you look like. They don't even care what you sound like. Like I have a lisp, and I pronounce words all the time, and I'm horrible with names. Oh yeah, I have to fight it. It's a fight. It's a fight for my entire life. There's a lot of words that I have a hard time saying. But anyways, it pops out from time to time, and I'm horrible with names, like really bad with names. People don't care. What they care about is the information, your integrity, and whether or not you're a trustworthy person. So this is why I'm encouraging you to come forward with your name, because if you're going to be bold enough to use your real name, then you're definitely standing on the platform of integrity, because if you don't, you'll lose the name. If you have a persona, it's kind of something that you can get rid of if it goes bad, Juno Beach. But in either case, when you stand on your name, that adds integrity. And I do believe that. So look, people don't care. Look, I'm in a jacket. I got a trucker hat on. I'm in a trailer. They don't care about that. What they care about is whether or not there's integrity and truth. So stay on that path, and you don't even have to do your hair. You don't even have to do your makeup. Forget the pearls next time when you're with Viva. It's fine. He loves you for the way you are, and so does our audience. So I would encourage you, Amanda, to keep going.
It's just like I'm like, yeah.
I saw that. I'm like, look at her go. She's all ready.
Yeah, I don't have the black and red checkered shirt yet. I'm going to add that to my wardrobe one day for sure.
The red black plaid.
The blue blazer may become a bit of my trademark, because I'm always in the court, right? I like to put a coat on.
Yeah.
I will say it's funny how your wardrobe indicates how you're feeling, because when I first went to court in September, I was dressed. I was perfect. Had my dresses and my suit jackets, my brief, and I'm here to be, right now I want to show up in jogging pants and a sweatshirt.
Like, because that's the respect they're giving you.
Yeah, I just have so little respect for the court anymore. I used to hold judges in high regard. I'm not gonna lie. I really did. I thought there was a few bad apples, but after the last 4 months, it would be hard pressed for me to find one that I've found respectable.
Well, we like Tamara and Chris's lawyer or judge so far.
Yeah. So Justice Perkins McVeigh, yeah, she's nice, but she could have made some decisions to kind of ixnay things and move things along a little bit faster, I think.
Sure, but we're never going to be 100% happy with anybody, especially on a he said, she said. So. Yeah,
no, you're right. I have heard she's fair, and she comes from a defense attorney background. So her personality that we're witnessing, I've been told, is actually her personality in all of her courts. Like, maybe not so much the talking to the audience and explaining publication bans, but in terms of her down to earth, the way she allows both sides to make their arguments without interrupting. That's a very big factor that I found with her. She lets people finish talking. All these other judges I've been watching love to hear themselves talk. And I don't know why, because they're supposed to be listening. They like to tell you about their experience and how long they've been on. Like, we don't give a fuck. Like, we really don't. We don't care. What I care is how you're treating this court right now. What I care is how you're treating this person who's, innocent until proven guilty, and I never had a passion for criminal law at all. I love contract tort stuff. I love tort law, personal injury, former paramedic, right? To me, that's what I was always into until Tamara and Chris's trial. Like, my passion to change our criminal justice system has blown up. It's
me too.
Like I've said before, and I'll say it again, I don't think I could fix it licensed, because I can't say what needs to be said.
Yeah, that's one that I think could be our first topic, on whether or not you should pursue your license, because I think you should, and you don't think so. So that could be one of our first he said, she said.
Yeah, that would be a really good one. And people will DM me and say, oh, it'll help your credibility. I'm like, but how? How does it help my credibility that I wrote an exam?
It does, and you can only be a candidate for so long. So that argument will work right, but I mean in the public space. If you keep introducing yourself as a candidate, right? Because they'll be like, well, don't be a candidate anymore. Go finish. I'll tell you that the exam, it is not hard. It's not difficult.
Oh, no.
You can do it.
I'm not even worried about the exam. I passed
No, you're worried about the regulations. You're worried about the regulations over you.
I'm not worried about the money to apply. I'm not worried about the application. I'm not worried about the good character. I'm not worried about any of that. I'm worried about the times that my phone's going to keep ringing and it's going to be the Law Society calling to see what I've tweeted.
Well, after a complaint, yeah, they will do that. And I'm going through one right now. It happens. It happens.
It happens more than it should, because I know several people who are under investigation with the Law Society. And these are not just they forgot to submit their trust account. It was somebody wrote a complaint. And in fairness, I think that every lawyer I've ever worked with or dealt with, actually, that's not true. I can think of a couple that I haven't.
Oh, we just lost your audio. Oh, you must have got a phone call, because when you get a phone call, your audio cuts out.
I got a phone call.
Yeah.
I think, what we've seen with how all of these lawyers and crowns have been acting and working, I'm surprised there isn't more complaints.
No, be careful what you wish for.
See,
well, there could be a bunch that don't.
So you don't.
There could be a bunch that don't make it out, though.
That's what I mean. So you don't want to complain. I don't want to be licensed to have a bogus complaint. But at the same time, there are some seriously valid complaints that aren't being reported.
Right, but do understand that you don't have to be licensed to get a complaint. You can actually get a complaint right now.
Oh yeah, they could, but I've never practiced law. Like, I'm not practicing law, so that's the only thing.
Yeah, but you don't have to be guilty to be complained on. So
No. What I'm saying is that they can't investigate me because I'm not practicing law. Like,
not true.
They can get you on good character because you were licensed, but they
right.
can't do
But
that
hold
to
on,
me.
there's a misunderstanding there.
Here's a good he said, she said coming.
Yeah, there's a misunderstanding there. They absolutely can come after an unlicensed person, and people have never been licensed. They absolutely do that.
If they're practicing law.
Or perceived to be, or
that's
accused
what I mean.
of.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Right, but that's where you got to be careful, because even just saying I'm a paralegal candidate will, in other people's mind, make them think, oh, you're just a week or two away from it. And that is where they have it. You don't have to do anything wrong. I'm going through it right now. You don't have to do anything wrong. It's just, could the public be misconstrued? Could the public make the mistake of thinking you're a lawyer? And that's what I'm going through right now. The allegation against me isn't that I'm practicing or trying to put myself up as a lawyer, because I'm not. It's just that people assume I am. So because they assume I am, that's part of the problem. And the Law Society will go after people who are not even in the system if the public believes, and it's happened to Jordan Peterson. So look, you're bigger the name. It's not going to change it. It's just a public perception. So look, here's why I'm suggesting you do continue to go ahead and get your license, because the things you're concerned about are going to happen regardless if you're licensed or not. So you may as well get the license so you can represent people and practice if you want. But B, it does add to the credibility. In fact, if we go ahead with the he said, she said, and we start doing anything along the lines of mediation, I'll reactivate my license.
Your license?
So yeah, just to give me that extra little precaution that I'm okay to go ahead and say, hey, look, in my opinion, this is A, B, C, D, E, F. To be able to say that without a license can also trigger some alarms.
So here's the thing that I have a problem with that. That's my bigger problem. My bigger problem with it's a big one with Canada. I'm sorry, but you shouldn't have to be an effing lawyer for me to go to you for advice. Because if you've already been through this, and let's say I've got somebody who's been through, I don't know, pick a small claims, and they know how the process works, and they know how to do a statement of claim. Not too sure why anyone has to be a lawyer or a paralegal to help somebody with a statement of claim. I'm saying that our law societies have made it so that only licensed people can do law, and that's part of the lawfare bullshit. I'm not down.
You're not wrong. Yeah, you're not wrong about that.
I'm not, my friend should be able to call me and say, hey, what do you effing think? How should I do this? I should be able to answer that question without going, I'm not a lawyer. And then why? For 3 years, everyone's been a frickin' doctor. You didn't see the Canadian Medical Association going after them. You didn't see all these people, all these politicians who are making comments about medical. No, they were acting like doctors. They were acting like medical professionals. They're not licensed or been to school.
Bill Gates.
Right? They basically saying we're all stupid if we don't have a license. Exactly.
Correct.
I'm just reading it.
Yeah.
And that's my thing is I think that people who are unlicensed are going to do a better job because they're not worried about all of the officer of the court rules and regulations we have, oh yeah, call the show,
Call the show, not a lawyer.
You know what? I actually almost bought the website. Actually, I may have bought it.
Don't say it too loud. People might grab it if you say it too loud.
Okay, yeah, I better check. Yeah, I'll check first. I really want to check to see if I bought it. I'll tweet it out after. But I got that's funny. So I bought Legally Purdy, and that's why we're running with the Legally Purdy. And this comes from an argument in my class where one instructor who's a lawyer was telling us that you're not allowed to have the word. It was a practice management course, right? We're getting towards the end.
Right. Yeah.
Or no, it wasn't, because I think I registered it in February. Anyways, they were talking about, whether or not you're allowed to use the word legal in any of your marketing materials in Ontario. Like anybody, right? And you're only allowed to use the word legal if you're licensed, if you're a licensed lawyer or a paralegal. And so, because my last name is Purdy.
Oh, you've outed yourself. We know your last name now.
Yes. Now you know. I said, well, if I'm not licensed, could I just register Legally Purdy? Because I'm legally a Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
One instructor said no, and the other one said yes. And
welcome to the justice system. You'll get two answers for the same question.
In the same college.
Welcome to the law.
I had them both say two different things when it came to the Dog Owners Liability Act. So if you own a dog and someone breaks into your house and hurts the person who breaks into your house, I had two lawyers tell me two totally different answers in that class.
Yep.
And I just agreed with both their answers and said, well, this is how I would argue it. And then, people in my class went, no, I'd probably go with her. And I skirted a few arguments around lawyers, and I'm not a lawyer. You don't need to be a lawyer to have a brain, to be able to read, and to be able to draw logic. Because all these losers have made it. You and I can do it. Sorry, I don't have a lot of respect. Especially, I almost lost my mind. I was a good thing my mic was off when I was listening in the background to you and Randy. Sorry, how much did Tony get? That lawyer?
Oh, Tony Rolson, $550,000.
Pardon?
And was asking for another 120.
And okay, yeah. So this is why my fight.
But I just want to highlight something here before everybody thinks that she's the only one that got that money. It was her firm. She had many people in her firm. It was her firm took on a majority of that. I don't have any doubt that she can account for everything. But look, it's expensive. They paid a lot, and then she walked when there was a fight.
That's the thing. And
let's remind everybody, it delayed it by 2 months now. So they were supposed to be in pretrial court now, as we speak. They're not, and they'll be returning February 5th for that.
And that to me is a little bit peculiar because I can't believe the judge let her.
That's what I'm concerned about. I think there's going to be more to that because if Chris Carbert's correct, and he usually is, if Chris Carbert is correct on what happened with the interpersonal relationship between Tony and Tony, that's like a rap song right there, Tony and Tony. But if he's correct about that interpersonal relationship, it shouldn't have been allowed. In my opinion, the lawyer should not have been allowed to recuse herself or resign based on that. But at the same time, here's the challenge for the court. You, as the defendant, do you really want a court-forced lawyer? Do you really want a lawyer representing to you that's against their will? Do you really want that as your lawyer? I think that'd be a tough predicament for.
It is a tough predicament, but again, we have those bylaws that lawyers have to adhere to, right? So, they have to defend. The wording is without fear. Like you have to
vigorously.
Yeah. It said, and there is some, one of them does say without
I'm just going to give you a
fear.
heads up. I do have to end the show soon because I can't run over 2 hours or I won't be able to restream it. Just one of the things you're going to learn when you get into the streaming stuff.
Okay, 2 hours. Okay, yeah, we got.
That's my limit. That includes my exit, so I need to get off in about a minute or two.
Sounds good. Yeah. So basically, my thing is that I really want to change it so that people can be helping other people with legal matters without a license.
That's going to be fun. I think the public needs to know how to do this, and I think you're not wrong.
You can already do it at Provincial Offences Court in Ontario. You can already do it in the Landlord and Tenant Board. I represented my neighbor 4 years ago at the Landlord and Tenant Board. Indian guy, homeowner, strong accent, and I was worried he was going to be discriminated against. So I went and spoke for him.
Yeah.
And we won. I had never that this tenant was looking for a $3,600 rent abatement. I'd never been to the LTB or taken a course, and I won. I'd never even been in class. This is pre-COVID, pre my divorce, everything. And I won that case, and I've never had a lick of training. Common sense.
Well, Randy's about to go through it, self-represented. I think we need to really push hard self-represented, and there should be ways for us to help each other as self-represented.
Without getting in trouble. Yeah, without getting in trouble.
Well, like I said before, it might have to be tested in court. So somebody might have to get in trouble, fight it, like Jordan Peterson might be doing, and take the Law Society itself to court and maybe kind of restrain them a little bit. But let's cross those bridges when we get there. My bridge I need to cross right now is to get this to end under 2 hours, or I won't be able to restream on Rumble later.
Okay.
Thank you, Amanda, for hanging out with me. I think the audience does like the idea of us teaming up for some sort of show. Let's continue that conversation. And you do belong in front of the camera.
God.
It's been proven. It's fact now.
I know. I laugh loud. I'm very animated, so I have to.
I'm pretty sure CBC said you shouldn't, so I think that means you should.
That's true. I'll have to get a new laugh though, because mine's
no worries. No, be you. Be you. People like the imperfection. That shows that you're not a deep fake and you're not an actor either. Just be you. It helps a lot. The imperfections is the charm. I assure you on that one.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for having me again. We'll chat again later.
You got it. And you might be on today too. I might still recruit you for this afternoon. Yeah.
Ah, perfect. Okay. Yeah. Shoot me a text if you want me to do the relay with
Sounds
Donald.
Great.
I thought Donald was coming in too.
Yeah. I normally have 2 people for each region.
Perfect.
Yeah. My math is still good. You, Donald, that's 2. So no. I'll reach out to you.
No, I meant for today. I thought he was coming in for today with Randy.
No, he gave me a late message. He was writing an article. He was too tired. If he could make it, he could make it. But he did forewarn us, and we did let the audience know you'll see Donald tomorrow. And tomorrow is a cop show, but I'm going to get into that in a second so I can sign off here. Okay. Take care, Amanda. I'm going to have to let you go, but we'll talk soon, okay?
Bye. Bye, everyone. Merry
Christmas. Merry Christmas. Bye. All right, folks, I do have to rush up here. As you heard, I have to cut this to be less than 2 hours total, or I won't be able to restream to Rumble. It's one of these technical limits. So have yourself a great day. Make sure you tune in tonight. It's going to be the relay. You might see Amanda. You're going to see a whole bunch of people, but tune in 6 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Mountain. Have yourself a wonderful day. Where's my mouse? There it is. Have yourself a wonderful day. You all take care, and God bless.